Reel in the field goals. This is Reel in the Field Goals. Thanks again to David Fagerholm for that awesome music theme song that was just playing. And I'm Kenneth Arthur, and with me as always is Danny Kelly, and this is Reel in the Field Goals, the weekly Seahawks podcast. We're 23 weeks shy of week one of the 2016 NFL season when the Seahawks will play somebody, and they will be playing the Seahawks. Danny, how are you doing today?
I'm doing well, Kenny. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. It's been the most lullest. It just feels like we really hit a lull.
Nothing is happening.
Yeah, the last couple of weeks have been
all.
pretty rough. Even for the NFL, they can't seem to be pushing out enough stories themselves that even the New York Times has to get involved to start to stir up something for us to talk about with regards to the NFL. Come on, NFL. You can't have an arrest of your own or something. You get some trades going on. We're waiting, and we're looking for something to talk about, as you may or not be able to tell with my first 1 minute of this podcast. But to help us talk about things this week is Chris Sullivan, formerly of the Seahawks Addicts website, which, to my understanding, was a weekly web series where Chris would go over to a Seahawks house and check out their attic. Is that correct, Chris?
That is correct. We were sort of like a proto-fixer-upper, but with a Seahawks slant.
Yeah, and so Seahawks Addicts. It's like cribs, but let's just check out this one room that nobody actually really has in most real-life houses that aren't Christmas Vacation. So,
yeah. So much tetanus, had to call it off after a couple seasons.
Best memories of Seahawks Addicts, was it Jordan Babineau's attic? Was it maybe Matt Hasselbeck's attic?
Strange but true, Steve Valos.
Yikes. In all seriousness, Chris, you people may or may not remember you from the Seahawks Addicts, ADDICTS website. Can you sort of give us a brief history of whether or not someone does or doesn't?
No.
Website, how that started, how you got that started?
This is only for the people who vaguely remember it. You can fast forward about 2 minutes if you have no recollection. Basically, Seahawks Addicts was started after someone good quit at the Tacoma News Tribune. His name is Mike Sando, and went on to bigger and better things. A guy who was, shall we say, bad. Frank. Frank. I don't know his name, but I'll call him out. He sucked.
I think you're going to skirt around who this guy was. A guy, let's just say he's bad. Okay, Frank.
I'm being frank with you, I suck. He wasn't very good, and we were pissed. Everyone was pissed. Hawk Blogger also started around this time. But Michael Steffes of Seahawks Addicts fame, he started this, and I shortly thereafter tagged along because I liked what he was writing and hated how everything looked, and especially his grammar errors. So I sort of started editing, and then eventually writing, and then eventually taking over when he got burned out after about a year, 8 months, a year, something like that. It didn't take long. And he was the most frenetic blogger of all time. He was posting like 12 to 15 things by himself every day.
Was he working a job too?
Impossible to know.
Niners Nation would love this guy.
Yeah. I don't know if he was working a job. I don't think so. I don't know. Hard to say. But it was a labor of love.
Kept it purposely vague.
Very, very least. So Michael got tired of it. I wasn't yet tired of it. I took over. That was probably a mistake. I wasn't as good as him, but I did, make it a thing for a few years. The last year of Holmgren and the year of Mora was really the heyday. And then eventually I got totally burned out. I stopped reading the comments about a year in, and that was kind of the end because that was always sort of part of it. But people suck. So, so I stopped doing that. And basically what happened was Twitter came along, and I was like, oh, God, this is 100 times better than blogging because I can block people. and the rest is history.
Did you know that I used to follow you on Twitter and I thought you were cool? I have like a very vivid memory of like scrolling through my phone and like reading your tweets. Like
Is
probably like a year or two before I even like wanted to write about the Seahawks.
is this your way of telling me that you unfollowed me?
No, I mean I still think you're cool.
Well, you're right. And no, I think you maybe mentioned that. I believe, if memory serves, as I was trying to run away from any responsibilities related to the Seahawks, I think you actually wrote for Seahawks Addicts for
I did.
about a week and a half, and I was like, "Oh, we finally got a good one." And then immediately you left and started running field goals and turned it into an amazing thing. So, yeah.
I would be really embarrassed to go back. Well, actually, I don't want to encourage people, but I bet you there's some really, really bad writing from that era in terms of from me.
Yeah,
That would be.
that was sort of what Seahawks Addicts was known for.
That's not what I was saying, but I think I should say Seahawks Addicts is still a website. We're just talking about the Chris Sullivan era of Seahawks Addicts. So,
What would you say, Chris? Like, I mean, to me, you're like you're a retired player basically. You can say whatever you want. Who cares? Let it all out. Let it loose. We don't want to talk trash about anybody on this show, and that's not what I'm asking you to do. But what was your relationship with Hawk Blogger and John Morgan? It seems like those would be two competing websites. I don't know necessarily that there's competition within the Seahawks blogosphere. I think everyone just wants to do well. But what were your thoughts on? I know, like, for a lot of people in the beginning when I started writing for Field Goals, if they did even know what that was, which is I only say that because I was living in Los Angeles, so not a lot of people that even when I meet Seahawks fans now, they either maybe only cursory aware of what Field Goals is. But back then it would be like the John Morgan one, and it was very tough for people to sort of break in and kind of like, oh, that guy that writes all that complicated stuff. And that's sort of what I think a lot of people were saying back in like 2010 or something about Field Goals. What were your thoughts on the two competing sort of bloggers?
Yeah, I mean, I think so. Hawk Blogger, I think he started same time as us, and that was like realistically, I don't, and memory is always serving me poorly, but I don't think Brian really started sort of dedicating himself to the site until a few years later, and really kind of shortly after I abandoned ship, and he sort of got more active on Twitter and really started taking the blog a little more seriously, and has turned it into what it is today. The 2007, 8, 9 era Field Goals was somewhat adversarial towards us, and that is the nicest way to put it. For whatever reason, and probably because we weren't very good, specifically on like the analytics side, like it wasn't what we did. We were really about getting people news before Twitter existed. And that's part of why I sort of abandoned ship. As I said, look, if I can just retweet this stuff now, I don't need to write 250 words about, Colin Cole fell off a train. It's there.
I don't know. If a football player fell off of a train, that might be worth 250 words.
I mean, if there's a GIF, though, I'm just saying.
Why does everyone say GIF?
Because that's how it's pronounced, Daniel. Moving on.
Okay.
But yeah, no. For whatever reason, I think it was really more Doug Farrar who just hated us. And again, we're hateable folks. But yeah, so it was an interesting thing, and I've said this to Danny before, and to Kenny in just the most private moments. I really like what Danny's done with Field Goals and bringing in a very inclusive, but also much, much smarter than I ever was, writing staff to really sort of dominate the Seahawks web waves.
I will say that I think you were on the Field Goals writing staff for like a week or something like that, and
yeah, and
I published one article, I think maybe.
I think it was a few articles, but
okay.
I went out on top, and that's why I haven't written anything else, with a bold proclamation that Marshawn Lynch was not going to get it in Seattle, and we need to elevate Leon Washington to the top.
That was your final take.
It was the last thing I ever wrote that was not in a PowerPoint presentation.
Was there any articles in the last couple of years that you wish you had written that you had in your mind there that was popping through there? Maybe the Seahawks should not draft Tyler Lockett or should definitely start Matt Flynn.
The one, and I've mentioned this to our friend Mr. Kelly, and I'm wondering if I can find this little screenshot on my phone while I'm rambling. But I did have what is obviously the best idea of all time, which was Seattle wide receivers as side dishes for your Super Bowl party.
Well, let's be clear. I'm pretty sure this idea was like 3 Super Bowls ago.
This was 2013 Super Bowl, yeah. All I can remember is Romaine Curse, and I can't find it on the phone. But Romaine Curse, guys, this was going places, and for some reason, I just never quite mustered up the courage.
So this very loose pun was going to be a side dish of romaine lettuce
with mustard.
Have you never had just a side of romaine? That's like Super Bowl City, baby.
Yeah, there's a guy in Bellingham. Oh, sorry. I was gonna say there's a guy in Bellingham who's like kind of quasi-famous for buying just heads of lettuce and eating them.
That sounds something like something that would be popular in Bellingham.
It does, doesn't it? I mean, that's just kind of it's a small town lore.
It's a good old Birds Club, if you ask me.
Was there any sort of other? I mean, we're really getting inside football here. Why does it have to be inside baseball? Like the terminology. We're getting inside football blogging. Any sort of funny stories that you can remember from your time at Seahawks Addicts as far as interaction? It's funny because it's like to try and I can't even imagine like as you say, the pre-Twitter blogosphere type deal, but because it makes it so much easier for players or fans or whatever to interact with you on a constant, incessant basis. Is there any sort of maybe emails or anything you got funny stories from that time?
Yeah, so there's two things. One, which is just a cool story that I remembered this morning, was that the lead animator for Archer is the guy who designed our logo. So that's
wow,
cool.
Really?
Yeah,
Amazing.
In 2007, before he was doing it, he was like a college student anyway. Yeah, so the best thing, and it was endearing and enduring, let me tell you. Towards the end of my tenure, the folks over at Blogwin, who acquired the rights to Seahawks Addicts, they decided, hey, we were one of the more popular sites, so they pushed out a little app for Seahawks Addicts, which is cool, I guess. Don't know why people needed apps, but they did. And
apps were all the rage.
Apps were all the rage in the present. But the best thing about this really kind of pointless app, which was just like, we will load up a website for you, was that there was an email functionality so they could send a message to me, but there was no way for me to respond. It just went to my inbox, and anyway. But they were pretty much all good. We've got, from 9/26/2011, I heard a trade is brewing for Aaron Curry to get Carson Palmer. What up with that, and is it true? It was not.
It was not.
Karen Murray sent me KarenMurray@hotmail.com. That's her email address, guys.
That's yeah. Okay.
That's what happens if you don't know how to use an app. You get called out. I just had sex. 11/12.
Wow.
Thank you for this app. Let's just hope we get a Kubi this offseason. And then there was a really good one. Well, I can't find it, but there were some good ones about T.O. Everyone was up in arms about cutting T.O. We also got start Flynn now and let Russell get a year under his belt. Pocket quarterbacks win super.
Thanks for the email.
Yeah.
Danny, did you have any not to, I don't know how many more Chris has, but
I have 142 more. Can you just hold on?
all right. Oh, boy.
We'll circle back.
Danny, do you have any sort of memories of crazy questions or like, rumors that fans have come to you with, or emails that you've received?
I do have a folder in my email, my Gmail, entitled Weirdos. So if you send me a weird email, you get put into the Weirdos folder. I guess I could read a few. I didn't look through these yet.
I mean, I only remember. I mean, for me personally, there's only really the one. I mean, there's been others, but it's not very frequent anymore for me. Just the one where the reader just said, "Am I to understand that you are a homosexual?" And that was all that he asked.
Okay, yeah, that was the all-timer. I remember that one. That was when you wrote the Cam Chancellor love article. You loved Cam Chancellor.
I think it was a little bit later than that. I think it came shortly after I had made a homoerotic comment about you, actually.
Oh, that's good. I'm gonna read a few of my favorite articles or web emails here.
Read some of your favorite articles, long form only.
I'm gonna try and take the names out. But basically, I get a lot of emails after we ban people because they get real angry about that.
Yeah.
And there was a guy who got banned, and he used his email that was on the actual SB Nation system under his username. He used that email to email us, and this was it. It says, "I am the attorney for SB Nation user blank blank blank. I must formally request that you observe the First Amendment rights of this user," and rights has it's RIGH apostrophe T, like PFD commenter does. First Amendment rights of this user to and republish his fan post on your blog. I've reviewed the site rules and have read the fan post and in no way violated any express terms or conditions nor did it break any site rules. Ellipses, ellipses, ellipses. You are now in violation of several copyright laws and also facing potential plagiarism charges. I'm sure you understand that because the server for your blog resides in the USA, my client has every right to pursue legal recourse, seeing as you arbitrarily and knowingly violated his First Amendment right to free speech. Ellipses. You have 24 hours to comply to this request before a formal charge is filed in blank's behalf. Thank you, blank Esquire.
And this is the story of how you got sued and kicked off of the internet.
Yeah, actually, that's how it all started. I'm actually breaking I'm breaking my gag order right now and telling you.
Oh boy, tell me more.
Yeah.
I get a lot of these kinds of things. This was from 11/4/2014. I read your article on the NFL power rankings. Manning's Colts, dumb. You lost some credibility. Luck's Colts. Manning's Broncos. I accidentally said Manning's Colts instead of Luck.
Yeah.
Let's see.
It's always good when you make a small mental error because, when you're a blogger or a writer and you put out your thoughts, you put out, 1,000 to 7,000 words a day or and it's just constantly streaming out information and God forbid that 0.01% of that information is incorrect. Go fuck yourself. You're so stupid because for a second you had mixed up, after writing probably, 3,000 words for 3 hours on these damn power rankings. For a second, you had forgotten that Peyton Manning was only on the Colts for 14 seasons, and then accidentally wrote Peyton Manning instead of Andrew Luck.
I totally agree with that, actually.
There's a guy that sent me an email with a picture of Russell Wilson throwing the interception at the end of the Super Bowl, and it said, "Defense wins championships." And his only comment was, "Planning on sending a few more."
Hey.
I don't think he ever did, though.
Cease and desist, please. That's
good podcast right here. Reading.
Yeah.
I think it's pretty funny, actually.
I like it.
Chris.
I wrote an article about what beast mode means to me, and I got a response from a person that I won't name. Said, "Who fucking cares? Fuck your stupid Seahawks." Sent from my iPhone.
People do have rage. Just the fact that you didn't put that in his face. It wasn't like you forced that person to read it. People just have rage that You get it a lot more on Twitter when it's so simple that a tweet comes out and you just say, like, oh, Russell Wilson has posted the highest passer rating in NFL history or some shit, I don't know. And it's like, who fucking cares, man? I don't know, people, but
this is why Chris quit the internet.
Yeah, I'm no longer on the internet.
Other than Twitter.
Well, I've got a flip phone. Use that to call voicemail, and then one of my interns just types up each of my messages. It's the Larry King approach.
And you get fax pornography.
Yeah.
Speaking of faxing pornography, Chris, tell me the facts about the pornography, which Congress clearly states, you know it when you see it, and some would say that the Seahawks are pornography in the Pete Carroll era. Tell me your thoughts on the Pete Carroll era since you quit at just the right time, which was right when they started to get good.
I am in favor of it.
We don't like to take sides on this podcast.
Oh, sorry. It has been about 5 years. Pretty long. No, so
a good fact.
Yeah, I mean, Pete, I don't know. I like that Seahawks fans have become Boston fans, and they become like completely petulant about every single slightly negative thing, and really it's mostly just perceived negative things.
Right.
When in reality we have it better than we've ever had it and will ever have it again. And this is the stuff that they're going to be talking to like their grandkids about, and their grandkids are going to be like, "What's football? Dad's got a concussion." It's just the worst, and I'm so tired of it. But at the same time, it's very funny, so I do it too.
Yeah.
That's an interesting question too. I mean, not that it really matters. We're really going in all sorts of directions here tonight. But what do you guys do? You guys think that football will be around in 50 years? Do you think it'll be some archaic thing where it's like, I can't believe that anybody did that or allowed that? I'll start with you, Daniel.
I mean, I think that it'll be around, but I think it'll be way different. And it seems like it's probably going in the direction where it's going to become more. About it's going to be kind of like touch football more than people will probably want it to right now. But at the same time, you got to kind of figure out a happy medium on getting the concussion issue kind of under control. So I think that you could still have an interesting sport and take away the big hits and some of the crazy stuff that you do. But I think tackling will still be around. I think I don't know. It's going to be really interesting, but I don't think it's going to die.
Chris?
I think it's going to go full robots.
Yeah.
I'm only half kidding.
Half, so cyborgs.
Yeah. That would be good, actually. I am changing my answer to cyborgs. I think like the sheer violence of the game can only be mitigated a little bit. Like, it is fundamentally an incredibly violent game. It won't ever not be that. And to pretend otherwise is just silly. You can move to like touch football, and you can take out the kickoffs and everything, but you've got a bunch of dudes who basically just want to kill each other, and that's fun to watch. But it would also be fun to watch robots kill each other, as BattleBots proved.
It's interesting. I think even like with virtual reality, if it moves in that direction, which it seems like. I'm hearing, I'm reading more and more about virtual reality. I have a friend who is writing a book about the virtual reality, the history of the Oculus Rift and everything like that. And it's like there is a strong swell of belief, obviously, that virtual reality will change everything. And it wouldn't be, especially 50 years from now, because 10 years from now, it could be autonomous with everything that you do. But 50 years from now, I mean, you could have the players or whatever. You could have people just whoever in some way you can measure their athleticism or whatever, wearing headsets and tackling each other, and we're not even playing with quote unquote helmets, and never once be in the same room as another person. And there's like that's so weird, right?
So weird.
Have you guys worn the Oculus Rift yet?
Not I.
Danny?
I don't know what that is. I was thinking of Ender's Game when you were explaining that, though.
Yeah, I was thinking of Virtuosity.
Yes! Let's talk about virtuosity for the rest of this podcast.
Me and Chris have probably as deep a history on Virtuosity as we do with the Seahawks.
What? I don't know what that is either.
The best movie ever. Starring Denzel Washington as Agent Parker Barr.
Oh, okay.
It's pretty crazy that it is starring Denzel Washington and Russell Crowe.
Yeah. Sid 6.7.
Hey, Chris.
What?
Did you like it when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl?
Yeah, it's fine.
Okay, so Agent 676 Killer.
Yeah, no, I did like it when the Seahawks won the Super Bowl.
No, I'll tell you this. I only met Chris once, and it was in 2013, just before the Super Bowl, I believe, when I went up to Seattle to sort of watch the game because I couldn't go to the game. So I was like, oh, I'll be in Seattle, and that way when they win, I'll be able to celebrate with Seattleites. And I did meet Chris that one time, and I remember that, Chris, you had said that you thought there's a slight possibility that I'm thinking of it was 2012, and that you said that they would do something the next year. But do you remember saying that you had said not this year, but I think the next year they'll go undefeated?
Yeah, I think I said that about 2014, so it would have been in 2013.
Yeah. Do you remember your how do you feel about how that prediction played out? Because obviously they didn't go undefeated, but they did go back to the Super Bowl, and they were once again, a dominant team. Are you surprised? Are you surprised that they finished first in DVOA the next 2 years after 2013?
I am not. To elucidate my answer a little bit. No, I mean, I think the team was so young. They had a good quarterback who was only going to become great, and it was pretty obvious just watching his trajectory those first 2 seasons that he was a dude who would be worth stalking on Twitter and inviting to the bongo room, right? That's who Russell Wilson is. And I think, obviously, the young defense was going to stay intact for that following year. We've started to see it atrophy a little bit, and we've lost some defensive coordinators and all that. But fundamentally, the core remains intact. Carroll remains intact, and I think we've got the best GM in football. So I will boldly pronounce again that we will go undefeated next year. And every year henceforth. That's why football's going away. It's going to get so boring.
Do you think that, this is kind of something that everyone argues about all the time. Do you hate Darrell Bevell?
I hate Darrell Bevell on a personal level because of what he did to my sister, but I think Bevell's good. I don't know nearly enough about football to know whether he's actually good or bad, but the people that do seem to know about football, not to mention, like Pete Carroll, definitely believe in Bevell. And, you see even a relatively untrained eye can watch a game, and it's easy to get caught up in the shit that happens every single play, and it's horrible, right? Because, oh my God, we got stuffed in the backfield. Bevell doesn't know what he's doing. And it's this weird willingness to excuse our heroes for being human and blame that douchey guy in the headset, right? Because certainly it wasn't Marshawn's fault. Certainly he didn't go the wrong way. It's clearly Bevell doesn't know how to call the right run play for him. And so there's that sort of frustration. But then you watch the game as the actual game plan unfolds, and you sort of see what we're trying to do and so forth. And more often than not, we end up winning. And more often than not, it's in part because of a combination of our defense, which is great, and our offense. And last year it was more on the offense, right? So it's great to say he sucks, and it's fun to say he sucks because he named Daryl, but I don't think he sucks. But I also don't know.
It is interesting. Because like you say, I mean, like you say, and many people say, I mean, especially in football, there's so many moving parts. There's so many people working on this. It's not the same. Like you look at the NBA right now, where the Warriors are going for their 68th win tonight, and will probably break the record for most wins in a season. And for those, if you don't follow the NBA or if you haven't since the Sonics left, it's like more than half their season, their head coach was out recovering from cancer. Steve Kerr was not there. More than half their season has come with Luke Walton as their head coach, and they still are going to break the record for most wins. I don't, and someone asked me recently, like, or we just had a discussion, like, what's the most important head coach in all of this major American sports? And it's like, it has to be football. There's so many moving parts because he has to be it doesn't rely just on one or two players. I mean, you could look at the Warriors and say, look, they have Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, and anybody reasonably should be able to get them to the NBA Finals, or at least the Western Conference Finals against the Spurs. And it's like anybody should reasonably be able to do that. But with the NFL, with the Seahawks, it's like, it's funny because it's like as good as Pete Carroll and John Schneider and however good Darrell Bevell is, what we really know for sure is that since Russell Wilson has never been on the team when they didn't finish first in DVOA. And it's like Russell Wilson has 4 straight seasons where they were first in DVOA, and obviously in 2010 they had ripped the team apart and the good players were way too young. 2011 there was a lot going on, but that first season in 2012 with Russell Wilson, by the second half they were the best team in football. And without Russell Wilson, but when we have Russell Wilson without Darrell Bevell or without John Schneider putting those players around him and without Pete Carroll orchestrating it all, we don't know what Russell Wilson would have been. But how much credit, Chris, would you give Russell Wilson having seen him for the last 4 years?
I mean, I think Wilson obviously deserves a lot of credit. I think he is first and foremost a freak athlete who throws the ball better than most quarterbacks. And the main thing to be, to be impressed with about him, at least in my opinion, is that every mid-season they recognize, like, here's why you suck this year, Russell, and they fix that one thing, and it's transformative, right? And someone being able to figure out whether it's, we're struggling on third downs, here's why, let's fix that, or, red zone, or just being the best quarterback in the history of football for a 5-game stretch. Whatever it is, Wilson has done that every year. He's had a different challenge. He's taken it well, and you can credit coaching with that or for that for some degree, right? But Wilson obviously gets a lot of it. And there's been games where he just puts the team on his shoulders and wins it. And there have been very few where they put the game on his shoulders and he didn't put them in a position to win it. So we are very fortunate with Mr. Wilson.
Along those same lines, obviously, Marshawn Lynch allegedly retired. Do you think he's really retired? What's going on with that? Why is he not returned in his retirement papers?
Why would he? Like, I don't know that there's a huge incentive for him to do so, right?
So he could retire, though.
Well, but after a year of inactivity, you get retired by the NFL anyway, right? So we'll cut him when we have to, if we have to. It's not going to do us any drama. I guess my point is I don't see a whole lot of incentive for him to retire, especially since I don't believe he would be like super into paperwork. That's not how he's ever. So I'm not worried about it. I hope that he doesn't try to come back because it's just going to be awkward. We're done with him. We've moved on. We need to move on. He wasn't particularly good last year. I'm just emotionally I'm done, and I hope he doesn't try to pull a fast one on us.
Hold on, I got a musical cue. I'm just waiting for the advertisement to stop.
Really good segue.
Yeah, because I don't know if anyone remembers, but Chris said something 1 minute ago that made me think of a song. So I was like, let me pull this up real quick, and it's a minute has passed. So just recall that when you hear the musical cue, it's funny as if Chris had just said it. Okay?
Okay. Got it.
I don't even remember it starting like this, so now we're really even harder because the musical cue is way later.
Can you redo the whole like setting of the stage for this joke again?
This is like a different version. Maybe what I wanted was Family Affair. Because this is Mary J. Blige, No More Drama. Chris, do you remember when you said No More Drama a couple minutes ago?
Of course I do.
Okay, now imagine. Say it again.
No more drama, guys. Am I right?
Boom, 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 boom. No more drama in Aussie. Do, 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 do. You remember that?
Oh, yeah.
Okay, guys. So, Chris, what was your favorite moment from last season?
Oh, boy. Honestly, I really loved losing to the Panthers. I guess not so much the result, but it was the best possible way to lose a playoff game. Like, I got all my rage out in the first 7 minutes. And then it was just like an adrenaline high of like, oh my God, we could do this. We could do this. We're going to do this. And then we did. And it was like, well, of course we weren't going to do that. And so it was like the least painful drubbing I've ever witnessed. It was great. I'm going with that, even though I probably shouldn't.
And did you think, now that we have like 13 and a half months to reflect on, we talked about Darrell Bevel's play calling, we talked about Russell Wilson, and we've talked about Pete Carroll with all this time passed. Did they make the right call in the Super Bowl?
I don't know if they made the right call, but I've been pretty firmly on the record since like the day of that it was a perfectly fine call. I think the issue was one of execution, and I'd be in favor of it. Romaine Curse did not block his dude, and I'm still pissed about it. But whatever, that's what happens when you throw a stack of lettuce at Brandon Browner.
That was an amazing callback. I want to get into a couple, a little bit lighter-hearted stuff.
More lighthearted
in this podcast so far. It's been pretty dark, so far. We've been pretty serious, and it's all been very like X's and O's. So
for people that don't like listening to a technical manual on football, let's get into some light stuff. Like maybe a little round table type thing. If you were a football player, what position would you be? Or you might have been a football player before, but what position would you want to be really good at if you're like an NFL guy?
Long snapper.
That's a lie.
No, long snapper is great. You get to run, you get to get hit, but you don't have to play a whole lot, and you can be in the league for 20 years.
I mean, I think that the idea of this question, where I was trying to steer you, was you'd be a really good player, so you'd want to play a lot, and
I feel famous. Like you've seen me play football, Danny. I'm not a really good player.
It's interesting that those guys that, you really can't, I think that there are probably long snappers in the NFL that have been with teams for 15 years that fans don't even know are on the team. And it is pretty wild. I think, obviously Clint Gresham got enough publicity, I guess, to be recognized. But there's other guys around, I know that the Bears just had a guy retire 2 or 3 years ago that had been with the team since 1998. He was drafted with Manning and Hasselbeck.
Can you name a long snapper in the NFL right now, other than the Seahawks guys?
Do we have to pronounce it rather than
I don't even know an long snapper.
Well, there was that Army boy.
I said someone in the NFL right now.
Oh, okay.
But you also didn't know that guy's name.
Yeah,
that Army boy.
Nate Boyer. Nate Boyer!
That Army boy.
Army Boyer. Love it.
He used to be in Army.
Army Boyer.
Danny, can you?
No, I can't. I don't know.
So, just a little throwback to Seahawks Addicts, one of the main topics of conversation for about half of a season was the foolish move to get rid of long snapper J.P. Darche. That's what we were dealing with.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. On
That sounds good.
It is like it was just a different time where people could like get upset and argue about dumb shit because it was like the Seahawks weren't going anywhere, so it was like you just wanted to argue about some dumb shit like that. And I know people probably, I mean, right now, how many people, if the Seahawks had gone 4-12 last season or 8-8, how much more would we have talked about Clint Gresham if you kind of could have made the argument that he was like the 40th best player on the team? Like if there was some sort of, because it was like back when they traded away Darryl Tapp for Chris Clemens, and we're like, Darryl Tapp, he's like the 8th best player on this team. Why would you do that? And it's like, yeah, eventually there will be a time where the 8th best player on this team is, Cam Chancellor or KJ Wright or someone that's good, Bobby Wagner.
Word.
Okay, guys, you hear me?
Was there a question?
Yeah, there was no question, but I completely agree. Darryl Tapp.
The question was K guys.
That's a great question, and I'm glad you asked. I'm going to need to talk to my lawyer, Ellipses Esquire.
Chris, what's your favorite thing about football, and why do you think it's better than baseball?
I love the fans. No, I actually do kind of. I think, I don't know, there's something like uniquely primal about it, which is funny because it's the most like manufactured stop and start, pretty uniform sport of all. But it's just like awesome. I don't know. It's very strategic, and it's also very like you have the ability to ignore all strategy and just be like, hit that guy, which is awesome. And I think it's like the only true outlet of rage that I have, other than my collections. So it's great.
Your collections.
Can you cut that out?
What?
Moving on.
What's the most absurd thing about the NFL?
Concussions?
Well, yeah, that's true.
I don't know. What isn't the most absurd thing? We're paying people lots of money, etc.
Yeah, what isn't the most absurd thing?
Danny, let me flip the table on you.
Mm-hmm.
What is the most absurd thing about the National Football League?
Wait, I didn't write these questions. The most absurd thing is the fact that they outlaw most celebrations.
That's absurd.
But also celebrations are absurd.
That's also absurd.
All right, this has been That's Absurd.
And C Sizzle and Danny Kizzle. What up?
Should we get back to X's and O's now?
Yeah, definitely.
Chris, we've spoken about virtuosity, and we've spoken about virtual reality, and we've spoken about Russell Crowe. But what's knowing that you're a man of simple tastes and you're a simple mind that can only handle so much. What is your favorite movie about football or traversing within the annals and fields of football?
What a well-phrased question.
That was the best question I think we've ever had on the show.
I feel like that question is my favorite football movie. Does that make sense? Second place, maybe Any Given Sunday, though I tried to watch it not long ago with my wife, and it's the longest movie. It's like 5.5 hours of not much.
Mm-hmm.
I remember it being really good, so I'll go with that.
Kenny, what's yours?
It's interesting. It's this isn't my. I like a certain type of film. So for me to say that this is my favorite, it's not my favorite. But for me to say that this is worth watching, you got to take that with the grain of salt. That I think that Birdemic is one of the best movies ever made. So that being said, have you guys seen Draft Day with Kevin Costner?
I thought it was called 3 Days to Kill.
I feel like this is a really long joke setup.
No. Have you guys seen it?
No, I haven't seen it.
Funny thing, the Seahawks have the #1 pick in the draft in this movie.
Mhm.
And so there is a lot of involvement because Kevin Costner is the GM of the Browns, which isn't that far off from the truth. I mean, if the Browns were like, we're just gonna go with Kevin Costner in real life, I think that we would all go, yeah, that makes sense. That's something that you should or would do. But in this movie, the it's almost like they had never done any research at all into the NFL draft or how it works or how trades work or how players work or how it all comes together. They just sort of said there's a concept that's about there's a concept called the NFL draft. Let's go with that. Let's go with the Browns because that's the team that people really care about. And then let's like sort of construct it all around some dumb dad-daughter thing with Kevin Costner because that's what you do when you get Kevin Costner. So I would highly recommend that you guys watch Draft Day and just revel in the ability to know that you know more about football, even if you've only watched it a couple times in your life, than the screenwriter of this film.
That was actually a really good review, Kenny.
Oh, thank you. Your turn.
Chris does not agree.
I loved it so much.
Okay, so let's just do some pop culture stuff. What's your favorite movie, Chris?
Oh, God, Virtuosity. Easy.
Chris, what's your favorite 80s, and specifically 80s, which would traverse in Golden Girls or Growing Pains? It has to have taken place in the 80s. I'm not looking for The Simpsons debuted in 1989 or whatever. Your favorite 80s sitcom?
Is Wonder Years a sitcom?
Yes.
Wonder Years. Second place, Golden Girls. And we're still not allowed to like Cosby Show, right?
Probably
No,
not.
I mean, if you like it, it just means that you're supportive of him as a human being. So
I wasn't going to say it. It's not good. It's bad. It's so bad. And what a dumb show.
What was the Fresh Prince in the 80s?
No.
90s?
It is interesting how many like references I've made to the Cosby Show in my life and had continued to make, and how much it was a staple of childhood and how many episodes there were, and the fact that it was always on reruns, so you'd seen every episode, everything like Justine, and sausage sandwiches giving you nightmares at night, and all these types of stuff, and it's just like, and barbecue sauce making you horny, but it's like all this types of stuff that was a big part of our lives that it's like, oh yeah, we're just never gonna reference that stuff ever again.
Stricken from the record.
See, I feel like there will be a time when it becomes okay again, in the same way that, like, let's be honest, people still see Woody Allen films. People still love Annie Hall. He did marry his one, like, adopted daughter, and he pretty clearly molested his actual birth daughter. Like, he's a horrible, horrible person and should probably be in hell or at least jail. But we still like it.
But I mean, like, this is usually what this how is it that every single week on this podcast we end up talking about these topics? Sexual assault. It's crazy. No, it's the other thing is, like, because Roman Polanski moved to another country, we were all like, oh, okay. Like, we were like, like he like literally drugged a 12-year-old, and like, it was all bad. And then he moved to another country, and like I don't know how much time passed before people had forgotten it or not cared or whatever, but it was just like, it's almost as if Adolf Hitler had moved to the United States in the middle of World War II. Like, everyone would have been like, oh, okay, he did. I guess he is international now, so we don't really care. Guys, you can't leave me open with a big fucking silence after that.
Okay, guys.
Hey, guys.
What's your favorite food?
Seamless transition. Favorite food? Great question. So good.
Are you frantically trying to think of your favorite food? Is it that hard?
Trying to think of any foods other than romaine.
I will accept romaine ahead of lettuce.
Why don't you circle back to me?
We really have to come back to you.
Yeah.
Food.
I may say that I wrote an article on Rolling Stone yesterday that went to the front page of Reddit today. Chris, who is your favorite author?
My favorite Arthur
Arthur.
is definitely Kenny. Actually, no, the aardvark guy.
You son of a bitch. The drunk guy.
It's
Number
like
two, the drunk guy.
Favorite author? I don't know. I don't really read. Danny.
I just wanted you to say me. That's I was setting you up. That's why I told you I made the front page of Reddit.
Oh, I get it. Probably still Danny.
What happened? What was your article about, Kenny? Can you tell us?
Check it out. It's an interview with the comedian John Daly.
Not the golfer.
Not the golfer. He and Adam Scott, the comedian, they played golf against one another for charity. It was real charity, and they played real golf. Though it's a mix of improv and sketch. It's the St. Jude's Hospital, and but they played golf against one another, and neither of them know how to play golf. So it's all very bad, and they dress up. It's set in 1966, but they dressed up as the golfers John Daly and Adam Scott. They sort of play those roles. It's very funny. It comes out on Adult Swim on April 8th, and then they do a 2-hour. It's going to be 30 minutes on April 8th, and then it'll be a 2-hour special on AdultSwim.com. I don't know. I'm promoting it, other than I think that it's really good, and I'm friends with some of the people that want it to do well. So it's pretty cool, and so that was an interview with him about that. So what would really be ideal is that he's obviously he's lived with this John Daly thing for pretty much most of his life and his entire career, because John Daly's been a popular golfer for 25 years. So it's followed him everywhere he goes. But he's never met John Daly. He's never talked to John Daly. What I was hoping, it's nice that this thing made the front page of Reddit, because it would be nice to see him play golf against John Daly, because John Daly, the comedian, is horrible at golf, and John Daly, the golfer, is pretty good, I think. So that'll be fun to watch, and I will have played a small part in making it happen.
I hope that happens also, very much.
Me too.
Tweet at PGA_John Daly, John with an H, and tell him to play golf against the other John Daly.
I'll do that.
I'm not talking to the audience. I'm only talking to Danny. I'm not talking to Chris. I don't want anyone else to heed that advice. This is only for Danny. Take this off the record.
Okay.
Hashtag KGuys.
KGuys?
Hey guys.
All right. Well, we're wrapping up here pretty soon now. I think this episode of Reel in the Field Goals has been brought to you by a lot of long, awkward pauses, virtuosity, not being, romaine curse, sexual assault. Somehow that happens. And another essay, Seahawks Addicts. So we got 2 essays: Seahawks Addicts, sexual assault.
Don't compare the two.
I'm just saying they're both SA.
That's true.
GOBC. And
Jared.
wait, what?
Sandwich artist. Jared.
Sandwich artist. Oh,
Also
jeez. When can we talk about sandwiches again, guys?
I'm not supposed to laugh at that.
Chris, I'm gonna give you have the floor.
I love floors. In fact, Fairhaven Floors in Bellingham. Wow. Friend of the show.
Actually, we could promote Fairhaven Floors. Go ahead. If you're in Bellingham or surrounding areas, you need some floors. Fairhaven Floors. It's from Fairhaven Floors, from your front to back doors.
Beautiful, beautiful.
It's pretty good.
Strong brand adherence.
There's just someone out there going, "We do patios too." No.
No, just thanks for having me. I'll see you boys on Airwolf.
Does this make you want to get back into blogging much?
It makes me want to continue talking at a screen.
Do you think that you would have done a podcast had your blogging career been born in another time?
We did podcasts actually.
Oh, don't shut up. Nobody cares about your stupid podcast.
I hate my life.
I actually really want to listen to those now.
Yeah, it was like me, Rob Staten.
Oh, jeez.
Yeah, I'm like proto.
He graduated, by the
Did
way.
you know that
He's
Kenny
happy
knows
now,
Rob?
bitch. Hey, Chris, you know what? Rob is happy now. Get over it. 3,000 NFL mock draft, everybody. We skipped a week for the first time in 5 or 6 months. There was no 3,000 NFL mock draft this week.
Yeah, well, the draft's still a ways away.
Well, we don't quit on things, Chris.
Sometimes
it's like, hey, can I just say to everyone out there, me and Chris are real life friends. When I give him a hard time, he's supposed to play it back, and except he gets awkwardly quiet. It makes me feel bad, which is much worse than talking shit back to me, but it makes it seem like I'm being an asshole, which is the same thing that happened to Arif when he was on this show. And everyone said I was being an asshole to Arif, and it's like, sorry, I'm an asshole.
Well, maybe if you guys would send me to a Seahawks game.
Good point.
I haven't been sent to any goddamn Seahawks games, all right? That's what I'm saying. You know what I'm saying?
You're one of those fancy Rolling Stone writers.
They didn't send me to any Seahawks games either.
I know. I'm just trying to hurt you.
Thank you. Chris, what's your Twitter?
Couldn't tell you. No, it's at the number 3, the number 0, the letter A followed by Crefo, and then RTR, and then like a backwards 3.
What?
This has been field goals, everybody. You know, can you just for 1 second here? What is a 30 acre anyway?
It's a measurement. It's a number of acres. There's 30 of them.
Why is 30 acres important?
I'm so glad you asked. It's the size of the plot of land that our former Seahawks Stadium, former Quest Field, present day CenturyLink sits on.
You know, to me, it almost makes it seem like it sort of makes an acre seem more diminutive than it ever did seem in my mind. If someone told me, "Oh, I have a 30-acre plot of land," I would think it's much bigger than that.
Well, I was paid by the Surveyors Association of America to try and push the hectare measurement, and sounds like it's working.
All right. So at 30 Acre Fortress, I'll do him a goddamn favor and just tell you what it is. Go to SeahawksAddict.com
At Fairhaven Floors.
Fairhaven Floors.
Best guy around.
No, don't do any of these other. No, fuck everybody else. That's bullshit. This is only the people that are here and that are willing to show their faces on this podcast. At Field Goals, follow Kenneth Arthur S. Go to fieldgoals.com. Check out the articles on rollingstone.com. Danny, you got anything coming out for sbnation.com in the next week?
I do. I'm going to start breaking down kind of how the nickel package is the new base package in the NFL and kind of how that plays out and what that means and what it means for the draft and what it means for teams and all that. So that's kind of on my – it's going to be like a 4-part series or something like that. So that's kind of what's up.
That sounds really good. Subscribe on iTunes, and thank you. We got another donation on Patreon. I think I got a little behind on thanking people that pledged $5 or more. We got another $5 pledge. We also got a message from a guy who goes by the name of Jim Beam saying that he thinks the microphones sound really well. It's always nice to hear that people enjoy the podcast and that the stuff that we're putting the money into is making a difference. So thank you for that, and thank you, Chris, for coming on the show this week.
Rent Virtuosity, Blockbuster Video.
Go rent Virtuosity. Until next time, remember to keep it real in the field. Goals.